The Pseudo Nerd Podcast.
Or a board game revolution, as I like to call it.
I've never heard you call it that, but
You've said it. You've now said it, I think 4 times, and it is the title of the rundown.
Teetering between dude and dork.
From a physics or realistic standpoint, it makes more sense than this Death Star that can just, do that.
These friends discuss everything from sports
I hope you don't win a playoff game with your kicker scoring the most points.
to movies.
The whole idea of Hermione and Harry Potter, it's just like having the jock getting with the cheerleader to me.
To cheeseburgers.
Baconzilla is just an extra thing I'll have.
It's an added bonus, a little
The
treat.
2 Baconzillas I get are the extra added treat.
This is the Pseudo Nerd Podcast with Josh Kaiser.
You come in there, scissor kick some people, do a spinneroonie, get tossed out.
Josh Haddon.
If you've never read the graphic novel and watched that, you walk away from it thinking about Batman and Batgirl instead of Batman and Joker.
And Kyle Hofer.
He's just bathing in his blood.
Get ready. The Pseudo Nerd Podcast starts now.
Welcome, everybody, to episode 58 of the Pseudo Nerd Podcast for April 21st, 2017. I am your podcast host, Josh Kaiser, and joining me today, Mr. Josh Haddix.
What's really, really good, everybody?
And Kyle Hoagland.
No, at some point it feels like we, the way Kaiser introduces us, it makes it seem like we're special guests. We're not not a staple of the show for the past year and a half.
It's funny you say that because I just recently had the same thought when I was listening to one of the maybe the last podcast I was on, and I thought the same thing. I'm like, it does seem like I'm, when I'm and bring in Mike Jones and John Smith this week.
I like to think of it, Hoagie, as we're expert guests on every topic every week.
Yeah, we are honorary special guests every week.
Yeah.
No, I'll go with that for sure. You think Kaiser's going to anchor this thing the whole time? I don't think so.
It does feel weird to be recording. I know we've had episodes out every week for you guys, but because of the WrestleMania weekend and all that, it's been a few weeks for me, anyways, to being on here. So feels good to be back in the studio. Discussing
AKA
all
basement.
things right, in the basement, as we're going to be discussing the baseball season today. But, doing things, making my jokes, not being intelligent on our topics as per usual. So glad to be back home.
Especially for this topic, I feel like, which I'm sure we'll find out in just a couple minutes exactly how smart you guys are. I know for a fact, Haddix, this might be, sarcastically speaking, one of your strongest suits.
Yeah, sarcastically speaking, this is the my most favorite topic that we talk about every year. By that I mean the 2 years we've been doing this. This will be our second time.
Aren't you glad we extended to another half hour?
Yeah.
Just for you.
Yeah.
We made this 90
longer.
minutes
Let's just
of
say,
baseball extravaganza just for you.
Let's just say I would have been happy if this was a pseudo short and it would have been 10 minutes long. So,
Damn, it's hateful.
If you guys out there are looking for good breakdown and analysis of the Major League Baseball season, and as we, going through all the teams, stats, players, acquisitions, all that, then you might want to go to ESPN and find their
you want to Google
baseball
the hell out of
podcast, because this you're gonna get a little bit of baseball, probably a lot of bullshit. And maybe
this is like if you ran into a bunch
facts.
of guys playing pool at a bar and you want to talk about baseball.
You'll get your typical Hoagie front running,
That's
picking,
true.
Picking whoever's supposed to know.
Spoiler alert, when we go and break down the World Series later, I have a feeling the San Francisco Giants name is going to be tossed around. So
who will be this year's well-oiled machine? I don't know yet.
So, that said, I believe I had the correct World Series winner last year in the preseason. So spoiler alert, maybe it's going to happen again now for this podcast. So stay tuned for that.
We already alluded to it. This isn't exactly the best week for you to try and tie up the score. But then again, I don't think Kaiser is too sound in this topic as well. So, I mean, this might be a little bit more even for you. But once again, this is baseball. We actually did a test your knowledge in baseball last year. If you guys want to check that out and see how that went, I think Haddix won that, actually, if I go back and I remember correctly.
You might be right on that, actually.
So, Haddix, I think you do already have a win under your belt with baseball knowledge. So that's something you can hang your hat on, or your ball cap on.
I have plenty of. Oh, there you go. I see what you did there. Okay.
But anyways, the score is 4-3 in favor of Kaiser, and this
I'm
time
having
around,
a Golden State kind of collapse going on right now. To be honest.
Yeah, that's Hoagie's team, man.
Minus the fact that you already had 4 wins, but no, yeah, you had a 4-1. You were up 4-1, and he's making that comeback. So this time around, I figured since baseball might not be the most exciting, most high octane sport around, I figured that this test your knowledge would be wrapped around one of the more interesting, more high octane, I guess, events or happenings in baseball, and that is the home run. So I've got 9 questions here. The 9th one would be actually a tiebreaker. So 8 and a tiebreaker. This is going to be the same way that we did last week. I was told by thousands of people that they loved that same setup where I would ask a question to a particular person. They have a chance to answer it without getting any kind of multiple choice. They can choose to either answer it or they can pass it and let the other person have a chance to answer it. If they give that person a chance to answer it, they also do not get a multiple choice. They get a chance to steal it without it. And and it's a free answer, so that there's nothing, they don't get penalized for getting it wrong. If they get it wrong, then it'll go back to the person who passed, and there will be multiple choice. Are you guys ready?
I am ready.
Yes.
So, Haddix, you won last time. You tell me whether or not you would like to answer the first question or pass it to Kaiser to start off.
I'm going to go ahead and step up into the batter's box and swing away at this one.
I see.
All right.
This guy with the baseball puns.
Okay.
That's written down on a napkin on his desk.
I got plenty more where that came from.
I'll be on the on-deck circle.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, here we go. So, since Barry Bonds hit 73 home runs in 2001, which is still the standing record, no one has even reached 60 home runs since 2001, let alone 70, let alone 73. Who was the closest since Bonds in 2001 to get to his record? You only need to give me the name of the player. The confidence is just brimming. I can already tell.
Mark McGwire.
Wow, he's just guessing just like that, huh?
He's just going with it. And the answer is not Mark McGwire.
I feel like Kaiser knows this. That's the only reason why I guessed, because I feel like Kaiser knows this.
Kaiser, you don't get multiple choice, but you don't get anything. If you, no, I'm sorry, Kaiser, you still get a chance to.
I get a chance to guess, right? Yeah.
Yes, you get a chance to at least guess, but there's no multiple choice.
I'm going to go with Albert Pujols.
Albert Pujols is a better answer than Mark McGwire, but also incorrect. The correct answer was the Philadelphia Phillies' Ryan Howard.
Oh,
he had 58 home runs in 2006. That is the closest anyone has gotten.
And Kaiser, I gave you way too much credit, dude.
You sure did.
I know, you could have at least
I literally the only reason
multiple choice.
The only reason, for me to get multiple choice, I would have had to pass it to Kaiser first, right?
That's true.
Yes, you have to let him.
I thought Kaiser knew it, and I'm like, well, there's no point in me passing it because he's just
using strategery in this.
Random guess.
Well, you were wrong. Right. I grounded into a double play.
Nice.
Puns. All right, here's question number 2. This is for you, Kaiser. During that same time period, there have been 4 players that have won the home run title multiple times, but only one has won it 3 times. Who is that player?
I'll go with my guess last time. It's going to be JBL this all over again with Albert Pujols.
That is not correct. So, Haddix, you do get a free guess at this. Who has won the home run? Who has won the home run title at least 3 times since between 2001 and 2016?
Big Papi.
That is also incorrect. The answer is Alex Rodriguez.
Oh, wow. Okay.
He won it in 2002, 2003, and 2007. Ryan Howard won it twice in 2006 and 2008. Joey Bats, Jose Bautista won in 2010, 2011. And Chris Davis won it in 2013 and 2015. Those are our only multi-winners during that time period. So, score 0-0. Here's question number 3.
As we all saw.
Haddix. Since the turn of the decade, 2010, the home run king has always resided in the American League. Yet 9 of the top 10 home run performances in the past 20 years have come from the National League. Before the American League's dominance in the home run category, who was the last home run king that came out of the National League? That was in 2009, by the way.
I am going to pass this to Kaiser.
In 2009?
That was the last time that a National League player had won the batting title.
Albert Pujols.
Well, if you say it enough times, you'll get it right. That is correct.
Oh, God. I was so close to not saying him because I was just like, it can't be 3 times in a row, but you know what? 3 strikes and you're out, and I fouled it off.
Question, once we got the question 3, I'm like, oh, God, if Kaiser gets a chance to answer this, he's going to get a free point out of this. But, yep, it was Albert Pujols. So, Kaiser, you got a point. And, Kaiser, you also get a chance to answer this one first. Before the hype of the home run race that we all kind of grew up on as kids, there was one man who held the single-season record for decades. Who was that player?
Mickey Mantle.
That is incorrect. Haddix.
Babe Ruth.
The answer is Roger Maris.
It was Roger
Maris.
Maris.
I knew that.
Yeah.
Well, apparently you didn't. Either of you.
Oh, God. This is sad.
This is getting a little sad, guys. All right, well, Haddix. How many home runs did Roger Maris hit in 1961 to break Babe Ruth's record?
Uh, 57.
That is incorrect. Kaiser, you get to stab at it.
61.
61 and 61. That is correct.
Well, it's nice to know
I feel like people are listening to this right now and already tuning into something.
Yeah, they're
else.
like, oh, this is a baseball podcast, and they're missing these. This is awful. We warned you guys.
Right.
We warned you.
Yes, this is true. All right, so, Kaiser, this is to you. Barry Bonds hitting 73 home runs in 2001 was also interesting because not only did he break the all-time record, he was also 36 years old when he did it. Other than Barry Bonds, how many players have hit 50 home runs or more at age 36 or older?
You know what? I'm going to call in a pinch hitter and pass it over to Haddix.
You just the number? How many
Just the number.
players
How many players have hit 50 home runs or more who were at least 36 years old?
4.
All right, Kaiser, this is going to you. All right, your multiple choices answers are 1, 2, 3, 0.
Ooh, that 0 in there's tricky, but I'm going to go with 2.
The answer is 0.
That is okay.
No player 36 years or older has ever hit 50 home runs in a season. Babe Ruth and Mickey Mantle both hit 49 home runs, and Barry Bonds at an older year, but never 50.
There you have it.
Which I thought was just crazy, considering that he was 36 years old and hit 73. And also,
well, I mean, steroids helps, but
yeah, I get that too. So, Haddix, we're going to go back to Barry Bonds again, since you've been nailing all these other ones. Other than his 73 home run season, what was the most home runs Barry Bonds ever hit in a single season?
I'm going to pass this on to Kaiser.
Okay, Kaiser?
70?
That is incorrect. Haddix, these are your multiple choice answers. Maybe you'll get a point on the board.
Okay.
49, 53, 55, 58.
58.
The answer is 49.
Oh, wow. It's funny
Which I
because
thought was very interesting. Because
when you said 58, I thought for sure that was I was debating between 58 and 70. Those were the two numbers in my head for some reason. And I didn't realize he didn't do that. Okay.
He had never hit, in any season, he's never hit 50 home runs or more, and then he had that 73 home run year. All right, Kaiser, just back to you.
What's the score right now?
2-0 in favor of Kaiser.
Okay.
So, Kaiser, who has won the most home run derbies? Who has the most home run derby titles in Major League history?
We'll pass that to Haddix.
All right, Haddix, I'm rooting for you on this one for obvious reasons.
Ryan Howard.
That is incorrect. He has won it, but he hasn't had the most. Kaiser, you're going to get 3, or you get your 4 here.
Yep.
Is it Yoenis Cespedes, Prince Fielder, Ken Griffey Jr., or Mark McGwire?
My initial guess was Mark McGwire, but I'm not going to go with that here, and I am going to go with Prince Fielder.
We are just killing it tonight, guys. It's Ken Griffey Jr.
I thought Griffey was like an obvious answer, so I didn't choose him.
All right.
Yeah, me too.
So, we have one question left, and we're just about out of time here. Haddix, I'm throwing you a bone on this one, man. This will be to tie it up. Okay. This is a closest to the number question. The longest home run hit in history of baseball, according to the Baseball Almanac. Both of you, give me a number.
Is this closest without going over, or closest in general?
Just closest in general.
Okay.
I'm going first again.
Is this right? Yes, you will go.
This is how I lost last time.
I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. No, Haddix, because you got first last time. So Haddix, you get the first guess. Longest home run in recorded history, according to the Baseball Almanac.
400.
Kaiser?
515.
The answer is 565 by Mickey Mantle.
Wow, I did not
Supposedly.
Did not see that. I was thinking it was somewhere in that 515 to 540 range or so, but I didn't. We're not against Mantle.
A lot. I wouldn't have guessed Mantle either, but it's one of those mythological.
Yes,
kind of a
sure,
myth, but
right.
But people have said that they saw it and whatever. It's kind of a long time ago when the technology
I'm calling
was there.
shenanigans, bro.
Well, I mean,
400.
I was going to say 400 is like nothing.
I mean, dead center field. All right, that's a normal home run. We're not talking about the average home run of all time. Well, Haddix, I tried as much as I could, but Kaiser's going to take a 2-point lead on you. The score now is 5-3, and most importantly, Haddix, your Goldberg streak of getting all the baseball question or all the baseball test your knowledges is dead today. Sorry, buddy.
It's a sad day.
All right. Well, now that everybody got a taste of our baseball knowledge, let's go ahead and start breaking down what is the 2017 MLB baseball season. And, we'll start this by saying we understand that the season has actually started. We're somewhere between 13 and 15 games in. But, just timing worked out that way with our podcast. So we like to try to do a preview of some sort. And with the length of the baseball season, 15 games isn't much. So here we are. And I think for our first segment here, let's talk kind of the top stories that people are discussing as we enter this season. And I think it's fair just to begin with the free agent signings, and probably just obviously there's a ton of free agent signings, so it's probably best to just kind of go through some of the top ones, the top names and where they landed. And for the most part, that top list is going to be just teams that re-signed their players, starting with Jonas Cespedes, who signed a nice monster deal to stay with the Mets. And it's already paying dividends. I think the dude has like 6 home runs already in
He doesn't even look like a guy that would hit. I mean, he's been hitting home runs for the past couple of years, like been one of the top home run hitters. But if you look at him, he doesn't look like a
no. He
large
doesn't have that
individual.
power hitting. Right. He's not the. It's a
look like
new
me.
game. Right.
It doesn't look like Haddix, but I remember he won the home run derby. That was the first time I was introduced really to Jonas Cespedes, because I think he played for the Athletics, and I never really even heard of the guy. And he just looked like a kind of a string bean looking dude. He was just crushing the ball.
And he's doing it all again this year. So it's one of those things that if it ever came out that he was on some sort of performance enhancing drug, you'd be like, well, I guess it kind of explains it. But at the same time, his size, I don't know. He's a great player, and the Mets are happy to have him still on their team. And the next 2 players on the list, both were Dodgers, signed back with the Dodgers, and that's Justin Turner, their third baseman, and Kenley Jansen, one of their relief pitchers. Both signed some pretty good money deals, and one thing with baseball, they're all pretty good money deals, aren't they?
They're all guaranteed money. It's one of the only sports where that's all guaranteed money.
Yeah, no kidding. They get their money's worth there. Not much to say there. I mean, it's great for the Dodgers. They got 2 of the top free agents. Kept them on their team, and the Dodgers were right there in the thick of it in the NLCS. So getting 2 of your top guys back is just what you want to do if you want to keep competitive. So obvious great moves for them, and should bode well for them this year. Admittedly,
it's a bummer though that they lost Zach Greinke, which was like their number 2 starter.
Right.
I don't remember if they traded him at the end of the year last year, or he was on the team last year, but I know he's not there now. I think he actually plays for the Diamondbacks. I think he played against the Indians.
He did.
Oh, yes. He pitched against the Indians, so yeah.
Yeah, and I can't remember if he was traded or not. I'm not positive off the top of my head on that one, but I think they'll still be all right without him. These were important signings, and they're I have not followed them much yet this year, early in the season anyways, but we'll see as the season goes on how well that paid off. The next one on the list, Aroldis Chapman, going back to the Yankees. Obviously, the Cubs gave up their farm in many ways to get him on there. And I don't know about you guys, but I think it was pretty obvious that this was going to take place. I mean, the minute the Cubs made that deal, they weren't re-signing him in the offseason, and it seemed all but a foregone conclusion that the Yankees were going to open the checkbook and pay Chapman again to come right back to the team. I don't know. Am I the only one who saw that coming, or did you guys, think that was going to be the case?
Well, I think I know at the very least he wasn't staying with the Cubs, and as far as anybody wanting to give him that kind of money, it makes sense that the Yankees would just go back and give it to him. Once again, I think the whole point was that was kind of the deal to begin with, was the Yankees wanted to supplement their farm again, and by getting rid of Chapman and then going back and opening up the wallet to get him back. So really the Yankees look really good in this whole deal together, because they're not scared to spend money, and now they actually they got a lot of Chicago's deep prospects.
Not only that, but then they made some trades with the Rangers as well last year near the trade deadline. The Yankees were sellers in many ways and got a lot of prospects, which we'll talk about them in a bit here. They got a lot of prospects, and then like you said, they've got the money. The Yankees never afraid to pay their pay their players, and got Chapman back in there, so they're sitting pretty there, and a pretty good signing for them. And the last one that we want to talk about, are Cleveland Indians doing something that they don't typically always do, but lately they've kind of made a couple big moves here and there, and that's getting Toronto's Edwin Encarnacion, signing him for a 3-year deal here.
Hedix, you're our resident Hispanic. How would you say that name?
Dude, it's funny that you just said that, because I was going to make the comment of hearing Kaiser say Cespedes and Encarnacion is like funny. It's like when you're listening to somebody,
like a white guy trying to say things.
Yeah, it just makes me laugh.
Yeah,
you're doing good, guys.
I struggle with that name so much. It's one of those things. Like I think how I said it was probably the best it was ever going to be said by me. So I'll be calling him Edwin from here on out, anyways.
Eddie. I think it's Eddie on Josh's Haddix's phone.
Yeah, yep. Right. Yeah, he calls him Double E, actually.
So. Double E.
Obviously, a big signing for the Indians. Napoli, and we'll talk about the Indians more later. Napoli was kind of their big hitter last year, no longer with the team. This is obviously a big bat that they desperately needed on their team. And I guess we could talk about him right now. So far, not been an impressive start. He has. I'll give you his stats right now. He's batting just over 200. He's got 10 hits in 49 at bats, 1 home run, 2 RBIs. Obviously, not what you're paying him big money for. He's kind of your DH. He's your big bat, and a lot of people, struggling to say the least, but. One thing that a lot of people, obviously early in the season, but it's sort of been the almost kind of his MO. If you go back and you look at his numbers in the month of April over the last 5 or 6 seasons, with the exception of, I think, 2014, he only hits less than 5 home runs every April, doesn't bat that strong. So much like the Cleveland Indians tend to be in general, he's a slow starter. So
I feel like that's, and I know it sounds stupid to say, because people say the same thing about like poker. Like you don't want to go up early, or you don't want to be hot too early, because it's such a long season, which we'll get into later as well. But you start out real hot, you're going to burn out well before the playoffs come. So it's almost better to start, as long as you're still competitive. I think it's better to start a little slower.
But the thing is, when you get into a slump, that's really psychological. It gets in the players' heads,
that's the
too.
Problem. Slump might be a little too much, but if you're just starting slow.
It's one of those things that, I feel, slumps happen in baseball, between, the long season and stuff like that. And I always kind of think of slumps as happening in the middle of the season or at some point during the season. And you could slump at the beginning of the season, but I never think of it as a slump. I think of it as a slow start. So I don't know if it's if it's just semantics at that point or not. Regardless, that's kind of where we're at with him right now with the Indians. Obviously, want him to do better. If we extrapolate these numbers over the next 2 months, then I'd start to get a little concerned. But right now, it's so early. We'll see when he gets kind of settled into his role here with the team and the lineup around him, and we'll see where it goes from there. But I've read a lot of different articles kind of stating the way pitchers are attacking him this year is different. Obviously, he's started slow in the past, so we'll wait and see. Not too worried yet, but
it's got to be hard to bat when pitchers are attacking you. Gotta be tough, right?
That is the contribution Haddix makes to our baseball podcast.
I was going to say, that's what I'm at in this podcast, guys, right?
Well, it also doesn't help him that he's no longer playing in an indoor stadium. It always seems like a lot of the teams overall and the players on teams that play in domes seem to have slightly better offensive stats, just to kind of in general. I know that the last couple of years, Toronto has always been a very high offensive team, and even now they're actually a decent offensive team, even though they're not playing well right now. I think it does have a lot to do with where they're actually playing the majority of their games.
Yeah, sure. I mean, the stadiums definitely have a role, not just necessarily even indoors, but certain ballparks that, are favorable to hitters, like a Texas, stadium, things like that. So I agree. Got to get used to our ballpark and hitting outside more often than he might be used to previously. So we can talk a couple of the other major stories that, those are sort of the big free agent signings, and we can talk briefly. We will talk more. Obviously, a big story is, what are the chances the Cleveland Indians can return to the World Series and win it? And we're going to hold that off. Our final segment is going to be, because we are, with the exception of Kyle, a Cleveland-based podcast, so we will spend the final segment kind of discussing the Cleveland Indians in further depth. So we'll do that there. But probably one of the big stories is obviously the Chicago Cubs breaking the curse last year, ending the curse, winning the World Series, and the obvious question is, can they repeat? And what are your guys' thoughts? Simple answer is obviously, oh yeah, they can repeat, but what do you guys think?
I was about to say, I think the simplest answer to that is yes. Most of the teams back, healthy. Kyle Schwarber, Jason Hayward, bounce back year, young team.
Hayward's the big thing. If obviously he had a hugely disappointing season last year, so if he bounces back, that only benefits them.
I was about to say, yeah. I mean, I honest to God feel like it's almost theirs to lose at this point. As weird as that sounds, considering they haven't won in a long time since last year. But
I think there's a lot of teams right now that I think can at least show up for it. Baseball is one of those. Baseball, I feel like, is one of the harder sports. Unless you're the Yankees,
it's not like a basketball or something like that. Yeah, sure, absolutely.
But I know that a lot of like sites and prediction guys have the Chicago Cubs winning less games than last year. But once again, they won 103 games last year. So I mean, it's hard to say.
Yeah, exactly.
It's hard to say that they're going to win more than that because that's a stellar season. But a lot of them say that they're still going to win close to 100 games. That they're not really going to get challenged much in the Central. So I mean, at the very least, I think even though they have, and I'll use your guys' phrasing, they're a little bit of a slow start right now. But I think they'll figure it out, and I don't see any kind of powerful team. Maybe the Cardinals sniff 90 wins at best, which is a great season, but unfortunately they're going to be in the same division as the Cubs.
Well, and there's a couple things that you can say. Why won't they? Obviously, that's the big question. They've got to be favored, as we're saying. You just won the World Series. Most of the teams returning. Yeah, you lost Chapman, but they acquired Wade Davis from the Royals. So they added things to their bullpen, and some argument can be made that they have a better bullpen this year than last year. There's a couple reasons why you could say they won't. And last year, other than Schwarber, who of course was gone for 95% of the season, they were incredibly healthy. I think I read a stat that their whole pitching staff, their starting five, made almost 30 starts apiece last year. Health was very favorable to them. So you never know where it's at. Obviously, the Indians were plagued with injuries, especially late in the playoff portion. So that's something to be concerned about. And there's always the thought that hey, you just won the World Series. Sometimes that appetite, no longer there. You don't. The excitement even from the fans might be a little bit down because the curse is broken. The same thing happened to the Red Sox after they broke their curse back, whatever it's been.
I feel like their core players there, the core players there are still really young. I think that they still would be very excited to get back in and win it again. It might be one thing where it's like maybe a player who, has been playing for 12, 15 years, finally made it into made it and got their World Series. Kind of like, what was the name of that catcher for the Cubs last year that he ended up retiring?
Is it Mike something?
No, that was Russ.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. I can't think of.
But anyways, that shows how much we know about baseball. But he to me, like he's one of those guys that always was close. He was on pretty decent teams, but never got as far as, he finally got that World Series title that eluded him, and then kind of getting that hangover. I think the team overall is young enough to not have a hangover about winning a championship. So I don't think that's going to be the problem, if there is one.
No, but I think it's something to keep in mind. I mean, like I said, these are just possible reasons why they will not. And then as far as another thing, come that All-Star break sort of time where the trade deadline portion, they're probably not going to be as aggressive as they were last year. They don't have as much to be as aggressive with. And, you never know, I guess, but that could, they might not be able to make that Chapman-like move to help solidify something if there's a need on that team because of injury or otherwise. So you never know. It'll be interesting to see how they go forward. Like you said, Kyle, slow start, but so early in the year, it's really until you get to the All-Star break, things really don't start making they'll sort of shuffle their way through by then.
All right. And speaking of shuffling, the name of the guy is David Ross, and he's actually on Dancing with the Stars.
Oh, there you have it. There you have it.
He's at least doing something.
How is that? Speaking of shuffling,
because he's dancing, right?
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
God.
I think it's a better joke than anything you've provided so far.
It's right there.
That.
And
shots fired.
One last big off-season move worth mentioning is Chris Sale was traded from the White Sox to the Red Sox, obviously giving them one of the big pitching pieces that they needed on a team that was very good last year, but didn't have much pitching. So, a huge upgrade for the Red Sox, and I think
which is weird to say considering they had the Cy Young winner.
Well, that's when I was looking into this, I found this little thing. He's now, when they got Chris Sale.
Sorry, go ahead.
When they got this guy, he's in a rotation that's combined for 11 Cy Young vote finishes, 2 Cy Young awards, and 14 All-Star appearances since 2010. And they have 2 of the top 5 Cy Young finishers from each of the past 2 seasons, including the only guy to be in both. That's a lot of Cy Young awards or not.
Yeah. I mean, it really helps solidify that pitching. Yeah, that lineup is nasty. Their team is very good, and it makes the Red Sox, got to be a favorite in the AL in many ways. So,
well, that's it. I think they were the favorite last year because I think they had the best pitching staff and the best overall hitting in the American League. But they, I think they ran into at the time probably the hottest team in baseball, which was the Indians. And what are you going to do?
You're going to lose. That's what you're going to do. And we'll talk more about the Red Sox in our next segment when we break down all of the divisions, which I'm sure you're all looking forward to.
Well, here we are again with the newest segment that's sweeping the nation. It's where we find a list on the internet and we give it a little twist. And because of that, we call it the list segment. I don't know if you guys. I was hoping you were going to
say Swiffering the nation, but you didn't. You decided not to do that. I'm a little bummed.
Dude, legal reasons, bro. Legal reasons. All right, we can't say Swiffer. All right, sorry.
Oh, that's right. We can't do any kind of product placement.
No, we cannot.
Well, going into this week, I figured that Hoagie's, his little trivia segment there was going to be about more in depth with baseball, and I didn't want to just do some random list off of the internet, so I kind of went back to how we did the WrestleMania thing. It's going to be kind of like a little quiz that has to do with different lists in baseball, and they're going to be more, I guess, maybe common knowledge, if you will.
I felt like mine was common knowledge.
I don't know, bro.
My test your knowledge was more of a disclaimer than it was an actual battle of battle of the brains. Let's put it that way.
Anytime it's me against Kaiser, it's battle of the brains. So.
That's true.
But anyway, just to refresh your guys' memory real quick, it's what we're gonna do is I'll give you the title of the list or whatever, and we'll go back and forth between you and Kaiser. The first person who cannot give me an answer of the particular list loses. I have 3 of them, so if we need the tiebreaker. They're pretty simple, so I'm not going to give you guys much time. You can't just sit here and start twiddling your thumbs. So,
is JBL the answer to anything?
No, I can safely say JBL is not the answer to anything. Kaiser, that's for you.
Good to know. Appreciate that.
All right, so this first one, and there's I'll give you the total number. So if we hit all these and none of you get them wrong, we'll just move on to the next one. We'll call it a tie. There are ties in baseball, so
what?
This one is.
I feel like that's wrong.
I'm messing around. This one, and we will start. Who won? Oh, Kaiser, you won last time. So do you want to go first or second?
I will go second.
All right. So
did
Hoagie,
he win, though?
Yes,
I did.
Yes.
I sure did.
As a matter of fact, he did win. So
I don't know.
Hoagie, we're going to start with you. I'm going to give you the title. And like I said, I'm going to kind of push the time here. So, got to think on your feet, got to think on your toes. So are you ready?
I think so.
There are 5 total answers to this question. Kaiser, you'll be obviously right after him. So I'll give a yes or no and head over to you. So,
okay.
5 total. The teams outside of New York that have a state instead of a city in their name. Cal, go.
They have a city instead of Texas.
Okay, Texas Rangers, I'm assuming. Okay,
Yeah.
Kaiser?
That was the one I was going with too. Toronto?
No.
Yeah,
That's a city.
Well, I thought it was also a thing. Yeah.
So
Ontario is
the other answers were Arizona Diamondbacks, Colorado Rockies, Florida Marlins, Minnesota Twins.
Yeah. Yep. Okay.
I had Minnesota on, in the barrel in case it came back to me.
All right. So Kaiser, you'll be first on this one. There are 7 total answers to this one. I'll give you guys a little bit more time. No need to rush, but obviously, we're not going to say waste a bunch of time. But 7 total answers. You ready?
I'm ready.
What are the 7 ways to reach first base?
Base hit.
Yep. Hoagie?
Walk.
Base on balls, if you will.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes. Base on balls.
Hit by pitch.
Hoagie?
Intentional walk.
That I think is considered base on balls, so I can give you that one.
Oh, can I do another one? Just
Yeah, do another one. Do another one. That's fine.
Go ahead.
Hit. Kai just said hit by pitch already, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
Okay, then single. Then get a single.
that's a hit.
A hit.
I'll give you one more try.
You've literally named all 3 that we've done.
Okay. Reach on base. Fielder's choice.
Okay, fielder's choice.
Yeah,
All
that
right.
was the next one I was going to do.
Kaiser.
Okay, so go ahead and read off all the ones that I said and you said, so you can get more time.
Right.
There's one that's still very obvious. The other 2 are kind of.
That's how I'm trying to think of what else is there. Oh, wild pitch on a strikeout. Like you strike out, but you get to first base because the catcher doesn't.
I'll give you. It's a dropped strike 3.
Yeah.
I'll give you that. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
Hoagie.
Reached on air.
Yep. One more, Kaiser.
Oh, that reach on there was a good one. Balk.
This one's.
Bases loaded balk? I don't know if that counts.
I think that might be considered error because what they have for number 7 is catcher's interference.
Oh, catcher's interference. Yeah, I wouldn't have guessed that.
Okay.
But yeah.
However, I'm going to call that a draw since Hoagie basically cheated and read off 4 different answers that we already gave. So
all right.
So, the last one real quick. This one I'm curious to see if you guys can. This is kind of funny. There's 10 total, and we're not going to get into details here. This is according to Pro Baseball Insider. Okay, so I don't know how legitimate or accurate this. I don't know if the MLB would recognize this or whatever. But there's 10 total answers. Hoagie, you're first. The 10 types of pitches. Go.
Do I have to say the certain kind of fastball, like two-seam fastball?
For what it's worth, they have some. They have them broken down like that. So yes.
Sorry, two-seamer
yes.
fastball.
Okay, Kaiser.
Slider.
Yep, Hoagie.
Sinker. It's also, I mean, it's a two-seam fastball, but it's a sinker.
Yeah,
it's
so
another.
You repeated your answer. So
Really? That's not.
there's another two.
Oh my God, are you serious? All right.
No, I'll give you that. I'll give you that one because there's two. There's technically two. According to this list, there's two-seam fastballs, a run and a sinker. So
okay.
All
right.
Okay. All right, Kaiser.
Change up.
Okay, Hoagie.
Standard curveball.
Kaiser.
Knuckleball.
Hoagie.
Split finger.
Kaiser.
Spitball?
That's illegal.
Yeah, that is not on here.
That's not a legal pitch.
The way he made that list sound, I'm like, I'm going to throw it out there.
So what they have on here is a four-seam fastball,
That would be my next one.
a cut fastball,
Oh, cut, yeah.
and I have never heard of this. Not that I'm well versed in baseball, but
As
a
we all
slurve,
know.
which is a slider and
Slider
a
curve.
curveball.
Slider
It's a slider
curve,
curve.
yeah.
So those are the 10. Those are the 10 total.
Yeah, I don't
So-
think I would have. Yeah, I might have gotten one more of those.
I think.
So-
I think I would. I would have been done after. Like I wouldn't have said slurve. I think I would have had
Right.
the other ones you had though.
So even though he repeated probably 10 different answers that whole time, I got to give the victory to Kyle Hoagland. So you win absolutely nothing. But
It's all about pride. It's all about pride on this show.
there you go.
There you
And
have it.
hold on to your seats until the next 90-minute podcast when everyone's favorite segment will be back.
Insist on the twist.
All right. As our fountains and fountains of baseball knowledge continues, we are going to go ahead and break down all of the divisions here in baseball, give our quick thoughts, kind of our, what teams we think are going to do it, what teams, where teams can kind of finish out in each division, who, you're going to get a big idea of who we like this year in baseball. And we'll go ahead and start right there in the NL West. For those of you who do not know, Giants, Rockies, Padres, Dodgers, Diamondbacks are the 5 teams there. And spoiler alert, before I even get it, Kyle, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that you've got the Giants winning this division. Am I right in that?
I mean, they're not playing well at all. But no, I'm not gonna. Actually, I won't. I won't say that. I'll say the Giants don't figure it out this year. I actually think that the Diamondbacks have overall a decent enough roster that I think they can actually win it this year. So actually, I'm gonna go against the grain, and I will say the D-backs win it this year.
Look
You
at that.
would, dude.
I bullied him right out of that Giants
I know,
prediction.
seriously. I hope the Giants win it all.
I mean, for me, I think the Giants and the Dodgers are the teams to beat in that division. Slow starts happen. That team is good. That team has been good, and I think that they're going to be right there. I think the Dodgers win the division myself. They re-signed a couple of their big stars. They were right. They were so close last year, and I think that they're going to be the team that finishes first in that division. To your point, though, Kyle, the Diamondbacks, I think the Diamondbacks are going to be a pretty good team this year. They might surprise some people.
It's a bold prediction, but
Yes.
if there's any place where I think a bold prediction is going to happen, I think it actually will happen other than the Padres. I wouldn't be shocked if the Rockies or the Diamondbacks do something to challenge the two teams in California.
Yeah, I mean, I think this division is going to be one of the more closely battled divisions as far as good records, good teams, with the exception of the Padres, who I think are looking at the possibly the worst record in the majors when it's all said and done. Feel bad for San Diego. They lost their football team in the offseason, and now they've got to watch the Padres for 162 games. But you know what? It is what it is, guys. It'll, one day it'll happen for you. But I'm picking the Dodgers to win this division.
This guy consoling the Padres. I'm picking the Dodgers as well. They have the best pitcher in the major leagues, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you think that he's the best,
yeah,
that's up for debate. He's good.
Yeah, I mean he's a very good pitcher, and like you said, Kyle, you can make some arguments for a few other guys, but they've got to be right there. So let's move to the NL East. You've got the Phillies, Braves, Mets, Nationals, and Marlins here. Nationals, I think they're my pick. They've got Scherzer, they've got Strasburg, as part of the rotation. They've got a very good team all around. They were right there last year again, another playoff contender kind of team. And I think they're going to take the division, but I think the Mets will give them a little bit of a fight there. But those are kind of my two teams, right? Much like the Dodgers and Giants in the West. I've got the Nationals and Mets here, but I've got the Nationals winning this one. And I think the Braves finished last in that division.
I feel like this is the one division that will actually be more contested than any other. I also have the Nationals ultimately getting it. I also wouldn't sleep on the Marlins. I think they'll be one of the more improved teams this year, even with losing their ace, in a tragic boating accident. But I would not be shocked if the Marlins and the Nationals are fighting for it in September.
I agree with Kaiser, and you that the Nationals win. But I agree with Kaiser that the Nationals and Mets are the only teams that do anything in this division.
So I think that's the NL Central. Let's go. I thought we already talked about the Central. We did not. Let's go into the Central real quick here. Reds, Brewers, Pirates, Cubs, Cardinals. Obviously, slow start for both the Cubs and the Cardinals, who are kind of my two teams that I think are going to be the ones to shine in this division. I don't think those slow starts matter. I've still got the Cubs winning the division, but I've got the Cardinals right on their tail. They're the Spurs of the Major League Baseball. I mean, it's a sport that they're very good at in St. Louis. For some reason, the Cardinals are just so good. They've reached the postseason, almost like a record amount of times over the past 20 years or so. They're the Yankees of the National League in many ways. And those are my two teams. I do have the Cubs still winning the division. And I'm sorry, Milwaukee, but I think you're finishing last in this division. But I don't think you're going to have a terrible record, but I do think you're finishing last.
I think the Reds could possibly finish last, too.
That's fair. I won't. I don't think it's going to. I think those two teams are going to be right there at the bottom of the division.
Yeah. I agree with you, though, that the Cubs win. And I honestly don't think – I think by the end of the year, I don't think it's close. I don't think it's a landslide, but I think the Cubs win easily.
Yeah, I don't see the Pirates doing anything. The Cardinals, yeah, they'll figure it out just because, yeah, they just have such a intelligent staff, good coach, everything else, manager. So I still think the Cubs win it by at least 7 or 8 games. But I think the Cardinals will definitely be in the talks for the wild card.
Well, that said, talks the wild card. Let's move into our National League predictions. I think we all said Nationals are taking the East. We all said Cubs for the Central, right?
Yep.
And then Haddix, you and I said Dodgers for the West. Hoagie, you said Diamondbacks in your bold prediction. That leaves a couple wild card teams. I kind of gave mine. I think it's going to be the Cardinals and the Giants. I think those are two of the wild card teams on my end. I don't know what are you guys thinking for your wild card teams?
I got Mets Giants. I agree Giants. I think the Mets make it.
I have Dodgers and Marlins. for my
right.
wild cards.
This guy with the Diamondbacks and Marlins. So we're going to have to see, Kyle. We're going to have to see where you're at. Maybe you are Mr. Baseball come October. We'll see some bold predictions there. Let's move over to the American League, and we'll start in the AL East. We discussed it earlier. The Red Sox making some big moves in the offseason, already having a strong team, and in a very tough, usually tough division with the Orioles, Yankees, Rays, and Blue Jays. Obviously, the Blue Jays were very successful last year and are off to an awful start right now. As of our recording, they've won 2 games, so really, really bad start for them. That said, I still think the Red Sox were winning this division. I do think the Blue Jays will kind of bounce back. I don't think they're going to finish dead last in that division. I think the Rays will when it's all said and done. But I do think that, I think the Yankees are about another year out before, I think they've still got a lot of young talent. I think they're going to finish right around 500. My pick, though, is the Red Sox to finish first and the Orioles to possibly get that wild card spot, but I think they'll finish second in that division.
Yeah, I think the Red Sox are unanimous winners, and it's not close.
And I'll be that guy that still rides the Orioles bandwagon, like I did last year. They have probably one of the best offenses overall as far as just power hitting. They just top to bottom. They're a crazy good hitting team. Their pitching is what's going to decide whether or not they get in.
It's that pitching staff. I mean,
anytime you have Ubaldo Jimenez as one of your starters,
exactly.
From a Cleveland Indians perspective, fan here. That's always a wild card. You either have a guy who looks like a Cy Young, player, or a guy that looks like he shouldn't even be pitching for the Sandlot. I will say, God, yeah, Red Sox are too good. I'll have Red Sox going. Orioles, I think for sure, are a wild card contender, though.
All right, I think we're all pretty close on that one. Let's move to the AL West next. Mariners, Astros, Angels, Rangers, Athletics. Obviously, Rangers were the team to beat in this division last year. Astros were right there with them. For me, I think the Rangers are going to just fall off this year. I think this is when the wheels kind of start to come off, and I don't think they make it. I think they finished middle of the pack in that division. I'm going to take the Seattle Mariners. It's sort of my bold prediction here. I think that they've kind of made some good offseason moves, and while I think the Astros have a chance and it's going to be close, I think the Mariners are going to surprise some people, and I've got them winning this division.
Say my keen baseball mind over here thinks that it's going to be a tight race between the Rangers and Astros, but I'm actually going to go with the Astros winning the division.
I would almost think the Mariners, if it wasn't for the fact that I think they've got too many young players, I think their time will come, but I don't think it's this year. I think they'll definitely probably win over 80 games. But I think the Astros are going to be flirting with 90, 92 wins or something like that. I think they win the division this year.
Yeah, I won't disagree with you guys. Like I said, a little bit of a bold prediction, but I do think the Astros are right there with them. And then finally, the AL Central, Indians, Royals, White Sox, Twins, and Tigers. The Indians, of course, probably favored coming into the season. Off to a little bit of a slow start, but they're playing about 500 baseball right now, which is basically what the division's been doing overall. I think this is a two-man race with the Indians and Tigers. I think the Royals are just about ready to blow things up. I think the White Sox are in a rebuilding mode. The Twins have been in a rebuilding mode. I still think at the end of the day, though, I think the Indians, as long as they can stay healthy, they've got Michael Brantley back. We're going to break them down further going forward, so I'm not going to get too much into it right now, but I've got them winning this division. And I think by the end of the year, I don't think it's going to be that close. I think they're going to pull ahead in, 7, 8, 10 games possibly above the Tigers for this division.
Yep, agree with everything you said, and I picked the Indians, and I agree. I think I think upper 90s wins. Above 95 is what I'm going to go with.
I think this is going to be one of the weakest divisions. The Indians have always been a lucky team since 95, 94 of being in, I think for the most part, never a very strong from top to bottom division. You always have maybe two teams that are doing okay, and then you got three that are below 500. I think that's going to be the same thing that happens this year. Indians are going to win it. Tigers will barely be over 500 themselves. But yeah, I think if everything's firing on all cylinders, I think the Indians are flirting with above 95 wins and will be definitely the winners of the division.
All right. So that said, who you guys? You guys both said Astros. We all said Indians. I think we all said Red Sox to win the division. Two wildcard teams for me. It's going to be the Astros because I have the Mariners winning, and I think the other one's going to be the Orioles for me.
I'm going to go with Blue Jays and Rangers.
Okay, so a little bit of last year's playoff teams there.
Yep.
It's lazy.
Not when I'm right.
This is true. If I said Red Sox, I'll say Orioles, and I will also say the Yankees come out of the same division.
Wow.
And find the way in as well.
I think the Yankees are going to do it. I mean, they played good ball even at the end of last year after they sold their team off, so quite possible. I mean, they are the Yankees. There's a lot of good pedigree there, so we'll see. That said, give me your National League championship and National League winner. Haddix, we'll start with you.
I'm going to go for National League, Cubs-Dodgers.
So
once again, more laziness.
Dude, when I'm right, bro. When I'm right. Are we pick?
Go ahead and pick it. Yeah.
Oh, the winner? Okay. I'm actually going to go Dodgers. I'm going to go Dodgers win. I'll go to the World Series.
This is I feel weird because I don't know whether or not these teams would play in the division series first. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean it's a little tough there, but just kind of go with it.
If I'm going like who I think are the two best teams to go for the World Series, this is also lazy. Cubs Nationals.
Yeah, seriously, dude, get off my back, bro.
I think that was your pick last year, Kyle.
Yeah, I think it was. I think I had the Nationals going overall.
I believe you did.
But yeah, I'll go Cubs Nationals again.
And your winner?
Cubs.
I will go Dodgers Nationals, and I'm going to take the Dodgers. Because you know what? I just want to be different this year, guys. I just want to be different.
We are everywhere.
Move over to the American League. I think we're probably going to be all on the same page here. Indians, Red Sox. Is anybody going against that?
Yes, I have Indians, Red Sox.
Well, I think my only problem with that is with that is probably going to be what ends up being around the divisional series, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it be Indians?
Not if they're the two best teams, right? They finished with the two best records.
We played them in the ALCS in 2007.
Right. It's not about divisions, it's about records.
Oh, okay. All right, yeah. Indians, Red Sox then.
Anybody
No. Wait. Indians, Orioles. Book it.
This guy and his Orioles. That said, I'm going to take the Indians. I think they've got a sort of this is their revenge year from last year, and I think they're gonna go to the World Series. Give me the Indians and Dodgers in that World Series. You guys?
I don't know if I would pick the Indians if I wasn't an Indians fan.
Fair point, because I think there's some of that too. So, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm going to pick them anyway. So yeah, Indians, Dodgers.
Well,
I've got a repeat of last year's World Series. So
Orioles, Nationals,
Indians, Cubs, Indians and Cubs again.
All right,
dude,
guys.
You just gave me all kinds of crap for being lazy, and you literally just picked the same World Series.
He's got you there.
I was kind of hoping you weren't going to call me out on that.
Oh God.
All right, guys. Indians, Dodgers, Indians, Cubs. World Series champions, 2017. Haddix.
Dodgers.
Okay.
I hate to say it, but Dodgers.
Hoagie.
I'm going Homer. I'm going with the Indians.
I'm going with the Indians as well. I like to see curses broken. That's what I said last year. Karma's going to come back and get us back for last year.
This is coming from the same guy that last year said, quote unquote, would not sniff the wild card.
Hey, you know what? And they heard that, and it fired them up, and they've been on a run ever since. So I'd like to see.
Well, now we're praising them and telling them they're going to do awesome. They think they're just going to just,
Then they'll probably falter, and it'll be the Red Sox, and the Red Sox will win it all. So there you have it.
You mean the Orioles?
Yeah. They're a well-oiled machine there in Baltimore. So
that's my well-oiled machine right there. That's the Penske oil well-oiled machine.
There you have it. That's our breakdown. Feel free to reach out to us on Facebook and Twitter and all that and tell us how dumb we are for our picks and give us your thoughts on all the best teams and your World Series predictions at Pseudo Nerd Pod.
Welcome back to another installment of The Great Debate. I will be your moderator this week because Kaiser and Hoagie are going to go head-to-head yet again. I feel like you guys have gone head-to-head a lot.
Oh, I think the last one was really like we like to disagree.
I feel like the ones that have been head-to-head, it's been mostly you. Maybe not. I'd have to look back at the numbers.
We would have to crunch it, but I do think you're right. I think Hoagie and I have debated more than you and I have.
This is at least the third time we've gone head-to-head. At least.
Well, speaking of the last time, again, was not a head-to-head. We kind of all just debated together, and it was whether or not Tommy Oliver from the Power Rangers should be male or female in the next Power Rangers movie. I guess pending they do one, which we're all assuming they are. And as of today, we actually just checked before we started recording, and this is Tuesday, a whopping 75% of people chose male. Are you guys surprised by that?
I don't think so. I think nostalgia was big on that. I think the three of us all kind of agreed that way, that it should be a male unless the script absolutely calls for it to be a female and makes sense for that. But I think it made sense that most people are siding with the nostalgia factor.
Yeah. Well, with that being said, we're going to move into this week's topic, which has to do with baseball, obviously. And I feel like this is a topic that, I don't know if heavily debated is the right thing, but talked about a lot amongst baseball.
It's a hot button topic for sure.
It comes on a lot, especially every time a new CBA needs to be signed.
And that topic is whether or not baseball should reduce its schedule or have shorter games, shorter season, however you want to word it. For this debate, Kaiser is on the side of yes, it should be reduced. Hoagie is on the side of no, it should not be reduced. So are you gentlemen ready?
I am.
Let's do it.
All right, Kaiser, we're going to start with you. First topic of the night is the April start, the season starting in April, if you will. So whenever you're ready.
Yeah, baseball season is long, and starting it in April makes no sense to me. I mean, the weather is bad in a lot of cities that baseball's played in. You have a ton of rain delays. I mean, the Indians have had games snowed out because of the April starts. On top of that, attendance is down because people are still in school. It's early in the year. You don't want to go and watch baseball at a 40-degree weather kind of game. Basketball's still not even in, just starting to go to the playoffs. The month of April is really just overkill for the baseball season.
See, April starts perfect time. It's the first month where it's pretty confident mindset that actually the temperature will be at least October-like. You'll have some uncommon weather, obviously, in the Midwestern, northern markets. Temperatures get low. Snow sometimes happens, but that's not common. I mean, look at this year. Weather's been great this month. Cleveland's had like mid-60s, high 60s, mid-70s games already in April. So, I mean, yes, it's happened, but right now it's trending where the weather's actually been pretty good this month. It's also good for the other sports, though, because starting at the beginning of April means you get the buzz and the excitement for the return of baseball, but it doesn't overshadow the NHL and NBA playoffs that start in mid-April. Baseball gets a solid 2 weeks of having or sharing the spotlight of the major sports, before it falls into obscurity thanks to the playoffs and also the NFL draft. And then once the NFL draft happens, then that's the beginning of the NFL season all the way up until the Super Bowl anyways. So I think April is actually the perfect time because it's the only time where baseball is actually going to get some sort of buzz.
Kaiser, any rebuttal?
A quick point I'll add is you made a mention that baseball will go back into obscurity as the playoffs kick off. Well, it shouldn't have to go to obscurity, and it could be avoided by just starting later in the year.
Well said, gentlemen. Topic number 2 is going to be how records affect your stance on whether the baseball schedule should be reduced. We're going to go ahead and start with you first this time, Hoagie.
So shortening the season would mean the end of an era and the end of record keeping as we know it. Baseball, more than any other sport, is a sentimentalist sport. It's a religion. There is not always something exciting that happens, but baseball fans love their stats. It's probably the nerdiest sport out there as far as numbers and analytics are concerned. So good luck trying the pitch idea of significantly shortening the MLB season, which invalidates record books and having all of your all-time favorite players while also with their records, but also making it impossible for current players to chase history. You'd have to start from scratch. Since it would be near impossible to touch the records that would be currently existing in the 162-game season. The new home run king would have maybe 30 home runs, because that seems exciting. Pitchers might start 15 times all year when the normal Cy Young candidate hovers around 20 wins, let alone starts. So the mystique of baseball is when someone is flirting with history, especially for a record that has either been a long withstanding one or maybe even deemed unbreakable. You make the season shorter, and you make an already not high-octane sport of excitement even less interesting.
Kaiser?
The history books for baseball are so screwy as it is because it's been around for like 150 years. Cy Young has a record for 511 wins as a pitcher, a record that's never going to be touched unless you have a pitcher go for 20 seasons averaging 25 wins. My boy Old Haas Radbourne has 59 wins as a pitcher in a single season. Those are numbers that are never going to get attached. Steroid era in baseball has records that are never going to get touched again. I mean, records are meant to be broken, and records are going to be so different from various eras of baseball that shortening the season by a certain amount of games isn't going to affect it anymore, and it'll just give all the stat nerds more reasons to argue why, in 2025, so-and-so would have broken the record had he played in 10 more games or 20 more games, whatever it is. All it does is give the baseball nerds more reasons to argue, and in fact, may even enhance the record books.
Hoagie, your rebuttal?
See, I don't see how that enhances anything when you're taking opportunities away for history to happen. I understand that 162 games is a lot of games, and not all the time is something like of significance going to happen, but that's what giving more games does. One thing that I've seen more than not on watching SportsCenter and baseball is that there's always something interesting that somebody is working towards, maybe a hitting streak or something like that is unique. Maybe not a record breaker, but is unique to them and maybe that era of the past 20, 30 years. You shorten. I don't even know what you think you're shortening it down to, whether it's half or even worse. But I just don't see how one of the most interesting stat-heavy sports becomes more interesting when you take away more chances to add to the stats.
All right. Well done, gentlemen. This third topic will be a wild card, so you'll be able to talk about whatever you'd like, whatever solidifies your point. We will go ahead and start with you again, Kaiser. What do you got?
So for me, they play 162 games in 183 days. These players travel. There's a lot of overnight long flights, this and that. To me, it devalues the sport. And why do I say that? In 2005, amphetamines were banned. Amphetamines helped the players after a night of drinking, or when they had those day-night games that helped them recover for the next day game, or they had a long overnight flight and they needed that pep. Now what they're doing is they're increasing their rest days, so the stars are taking days off when they're playing games, which now brings in less talent to play. So the game becomes less exciting because those stars are resting. If you gave them more days off, then they don't have that issue anymore. And they're able to have more exciting games, and the Stars are going to be able to play all of those games at full energy.
Hoagie?
First of all, because there's so many games, there's plenty of time for people, for the players to be able to have the time to rest, and it gives those players that are in the farm leagues and stuff to be able to come up and play for a little bit and actually show and try to prove themselves on the major league scale. You shorten that league, you shorten the season, and you don't get none of those AAA guys get that kind of opportunity unless it's an injury. But really, ultimately, it all comes down to money. No one is going to sacrifice home games and the revenue just because some fans don't like waiting until September for meaningful games. The same can be said about any sport. Wait until the latter months to see how teams do during crunch time. And as long as your team isn't a cellar dweller, you have a prayer to get hot and make it in the playoffs. Doesn't matter if it's 16 games or 162. Teams that end hot always find a way into the playoffs, be it baseball or any other sport.
Kaiser, any rebuttal?
All I'll add is, for me, shortening the amount of games increases that excitement that you're talking about, because now every game matters that much more. And I'm not saying you cut the season in half. I'm saying you shorten the amount of, maybe you even take out 10 or 20 games or something to that effect, where it gives the players a little more time off, so then they're playing stronger and they're playing more meaningful games throughout the year.
All right. We're going to go into closing statements, I guess is probably the best thing to say. You have 30 seconds each. I will stop you at 30 seconds. Say whatever you think will help state your case the best. Hoagie, we will go ahead and start with you. Are you ready?
Yeah.
And go.
So going back to the money, though, players also are not going to want to take pay cuts, which they're also going to have to do because the CBA is garbage, and they're going to strike when things like this are going to happen, where it's going to hurt their bottom line. They need to be on the field because they're one of the most unrecognizable players in any sport. Everyone else has a bunch of shoe deals. The best people in the world are unrecognizable. They need to be on in order to be recognized.
All right, well done. With time to spare, Kaiser, you will have 30 seconds to state your closing argument. Are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Go.
Baseball is struggling. Viewership and attendance are down. It is no longer America's pastime. Younger audiences are disengaged. The sport needs a shot in the arm. Besides speeding up the game itself, shortening the season can make a world of difference. Players can have more off days, allowing them to play through a full season. Less fatigue means better quality of play. Plus, it keeps the fans interested. 162 games in a year is mentally exhausting for everyone. Cut it back. Make each game matter more. Make baseball great again.
All right, well done, well done. All right, you guys heard it. You heard it here. So head on over to @pseudonerdpod on Twitter. There will be a poll up when this goes up. Cast your votes. Who do you agree with? Kaiser, that we should shorten the season, or Hoagie, that we should keep it as is? Let us know. We'll let you know who you guys think won, I guess, next time we reconvene for a podcast. Again, pseudonerdpod at Twitter.
Feel free to reach out on our poll.
All right, and now to our final segment. And this is the homers in all of us, where we're going to break down the the Cleveland Indians. Sorry, Hoagie.
Damn.
We are going to break down the Indians as a team because, you know what, we are Clevelanders, and we're going to discuss the team that means the most to us. And it just so happens that actually they're a pretty relevant team right now in the majors, so it's sort of a double bonus there. And a couple of the big storylines coming into the season. Obviously, Mike Napoli and Rajai Davis were sort of two of the big name free agents that did not re-sign with us, and I don't think we really made an effort to really re-sign either of them. And of course, my boy Edwin, because I'm not going to say his last name again,
Encarnacion.
There you go. Was the big replacement for them. And just early thoughts, guys. Obviously, we kind of see what he's doing so far, but I don't know about you guys, but I thought I would have taken that taken signing him over re-signing Napoli for sure. I think Davis is a good utility and kind of clubhouse guy, but I'm not. I think Napoli was. I think we played with house money with him, and he kind of struggled towards the end last year, and I don't think it was going to get any better this year. So I was happy with that signing.
Well, they're both Napoli and Rajay are. They're kind of journeymen at this point in their careers. They're going to be guys that are going to maybe get in 1 or 2 year deals and then just kind of or getting traded and being kind of bounced around teams at this point. So signing anybody to any kind of long standing deal, especially with those two, it just didn't make sense just from an analytics standpoint. So yeah, it wasn't shocking that we didn't pursue them to get them on the team. And on paper, Edwin Encarnacion is definitely a much better overall hitter than Mike Napoli. He's a little older. I think he's he's going to be turning 35 by the end of this year. But I mean, his numbers have not really dropped much. I mean, so far he's not playing very well, but we're hoping that he, picks it up. But yeah, on paper, it was definitely going into the season, everything was looking up.
Yeah, I agree. And the other big move, Jose Ramirez, we signed to an extension. So it's kind of, one thing that we've been doing is locking up a lot of our younger talent and keeping them around. So this team, even when we made our moves last year, getting Andrew Miller from the Yankees, we plan on, building this team to have success for, 3, 4, 5 years at least, from the pitching staff to our lineup to our bullpen. And, we were set up for success. You saw what we did last year. And, the big question is, can they repeat that success and return to the World Series? And, we all picked it, spoiler alert, if you listen to our last segment, yes, we all picked them to go to the World Series. Hoagie and I even picked them to win it. So we obviously all believe that. And, some of that's homerism for sure. I mean, the Red Sox, I think, could be the most talented team in the American League, but the Indians are right there. And for me, another big story for this team is Michael Brantley's back. And, he didn't play at all. You look at that World Series team that we took the Cubs into extra innings in 7 games, blowing the 3-1 lead aside. We had all the chances in the world to be champions. And that was without 2 of our starting pitchers and without Michael Brantley, who was an MVP candidate a couple years ago. So we get Brantley back. I mean, that's a big deal right there.
I'll say I hate to be that guy, and because it sounds so Homerish, Homer Simpson-ish. But
about to say dope.
But if we just had everyone healthy, you would like to think that we would have won that. I mean, again, it's easier said, than done or whatever. But two of our top 3 pitchers and Michael Brantley out, that hurts. That hurts a lot.
First of all, I did want to ask this just from reading the rundown. Haddix, how confident were you with who J Ram was on the rundown when you looked at it? Did you know that was Jose Ramirez?
I mean, I knew there was I figured Ramirez. Yeah. Yes. I mean,
okay. I saw that and I'm like, does Haddix even know who J
anytime I would see a baseball player with RAM, I would assume Ramirez, because they're all Hispanic, and that's a popular Hispanic name. So
you know what, we almost pulled a race card, but
it's
since
not
you're
like Ramon,
half Hispanic, yeah. But no, I agree. It's very. I think the pitching was more of what hurt us than Michael Brantley, and that's a testament to
I agree. Yeah,
good they are. Just consider how good Michael Brantley is. I think the team offensively, rallied around itself and was still able to produce just fine without him. It's great to have him. But yeah, I think in the end, pitching wins titles, and that was really what was killing us. And I'm also very happy that our bullpen, for the most part, has stayed pretty solid as it was last year. That was definitely one of our stronger parts of our game last year, and hopefully that just continues.
Yeah, and I mean, we can talk about this season. It's early on, and the team's kind of struggled. They're kind of up and down right now. But the biggest question for me is, now watching this season, and is our starting pitching, I think, has been very suspect, and that worries me a little bit. Obviously early in the year, but I think this lineup will be fine. I don't have much questions about this bullpen, but it's that starting pitching, and that's always the question, I guess, with any team. But if we can, if this starting pitching can kind of find their way, I think they're going to be set up for a lot of success. And a point that we've already made, the division is ripe for the taking. I mean, it's really it shouldn't be a tough, like, claw your way, battle all the way to the end to try to win this division. Like, it should be fairly easy for us to win this division if this team has any aspirations of returning to the World Series.
Well, I think the biggest problem that the Indians have had, especially for maybe the past couple of years, and I know maybe it doesn't matter that much, but I think it's still something that needs to be addressed. They need to improve as a overall defensive team and fielding. I feel like that's always been one of their biggest problems overall. Has just been not a lot of, like, quality Gold Glove. Maybe Lindor. And obviously he's one of the really, very good defensive, but he's also a young kid that makes a lot of mistakes. He's very flashy, but he also will make a lot of mistakes at shortstop. And especially at shortstop and second base. Kipnis, who has been, out for a bit with an injury, but he's also kind of been, he's a good hitter, but his fielding has always been a little suspect. The outfield isn't exactly going to wow you with, great fielding percentage outside of Michael Brantley, who has a great arm.
Well, shoot, they put Santana in right field. So I mean, we're not necessarily playing the strong suit of this.
It's very patchwork type solutions with our defensive lineup.
I think a lot of it is we're relying on the pitching and just kind of hoping the fielding does good enough, but the pitching is strong enough that we're not going to have to worry too much about the gloves. But to your point, like, could definitely bite us in the ass.
A lot of times, I mean, that's what decides a lot of 3-2, 2-1, those types of games. That, like I said, a lot of these games, a lot of these series or a lot of these divisions are won by just like a handful of games, and those handful of games definitely can come from bad plays on the field.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Jose Ramirez, I was checking out the score for tonight's game as we're sitting here talking, and the Tribe are up 9-4 against Minnesota at the moment here in the 8th. And Jose Ramirez has hit another home run. The guy has been just hot.
You mean J-Ram?
J-Ram, yeah, that's right.
All right.
What is that, 4 now?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, 4. So really strong start for him.
He also has a throwing error, so also throwing it out there too.
Just like he threw it out there, right?
Yep. Get it?
That was a good one. I'll give you that one.
So how about you guys? You guys have any other questions or thoughts on this Indians team? I mean, I think we're all in the, we all already said, we think that they're going to win it all. I mean, is there any factors or, thoughts? Like, for me, like I said, I think we all gave our who's your guy in the team last year that we thought would kind of carry it, and Lindor was mine, and I think, I'd say the same thing this year, and I think he makes a real run at a possible MVP for the league, not just this team, because I think I do think he's a star in the making, and I really hope we're able to lock him up long term sooner rather than later, because he's going to demand a lot of money very soon.
I think mine is going to be, and this is going to be from more of a negative perspective, though, the catcher position. We have Yan Gomes and we have Chris Perez, right?
Roberto Perez.
Roberto Perez. Chris
Perez is in jail for smoking weed or something, isn't he? Like,
yeah, something like that. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah.
I'm sorry, his dog was selling the weed. Never mind.
So yeah, Roberto Perez and Yan Gomes, who I think collectively together are hitting 100. So, Yan, I mean, something's got to be one of them's got to figure it out. They're both hitting horribly. Perez kind of took over the job from Yan Gomes after he was slumping and then ultimately went down with a shoulder injury. And then when he was healthy, they just didn't play him. So, and I think everyone said that Yan Gomes was ultimately the future, a guy that I think we thought 3-4 years ago could have potentially been like a 20, 25 homer, 80 RBI type of player. And the last 2 years have not shown that whatsoever.
Yeah, definitely a weak link. I just want to say fuck Jonathan Lucroy one more time there. That could have solved our issues.
Oh, from last year.
Yeah.
When is do we have any big free agencies coming up after this year? Like, is anyone?
I don't know. I don't know how much longer Lindor's under contract, but I know he's the one guy that they've been talking about trying to sign long term. But other than that, I think everybody's pretty much locked in for another 2 or 3 years, at least all of the main core of the team. There's probably a couple of guys here and there that aren't, but the main guys that you.
But the main guys, yeah,
the main guys that you're thinking about are all pretty much. That was one thing that they've done well. Is Brantley was signed to a long term 4 or 5 year deal. Santana was locked up a couple years back. Obviously, when they traded for Miller, he was signed in for long term. I think our pitching staff is all pretty much locked in for another couple of seasons. So they've done a good job of positioning themselves to have this team that they have now stay around for stay as a unit for a few years, which is not easy to do, especially for a small market club like the Indians. That to be successful and have that too is it's really kudos to this front office for doing that. And I think Francona is a big part of that as well, because you have a coach or a manager here that players want to play for, and he's well respected. He's a great manager. And I think that that helps in getting free agents and getting these young guys to stay and develop and want to play here.
Yeah, the free agent game has never been a Cleveland Indians strategy. It's always been maybe getting some players on I wouldn't say the twilight of their career, but definitely maybe like a player that had a couple really good seasons, and then maybe like the year before we got him had a struggling season. We were able to pick him up for a little cheaper. Well,
and you try to take the lightning in a bottle, hope that it happens with like what happened with Mike Napoli last year. Hit a monster
or even
year.
Going further than that, you go back to like Michael Bourne and Nick Swisher. And then,
those turned out to be a little bit
like
failed experiments, but yes, that kind of concept.
Well, once again, you had a guy who a decent player overall and a good club guy, and then Michael Bourne, who was at one point the National League steals leader and a 300 hitter, so he was an all-star.
Right.
Obviously, that didn't work out. But what always happens with the Indians is we will get these young guys who end up being just fantastic players that we know we're not going to be able to hold on to, so we trade them away for peanuts, it seems like, or at least guys that we hope will also develop in our was it the Columbus or Akron or whoever it is, our AAA team, the captains. They hope that they're going to do well and come up and stuff like that. And I know that the last couple of years before Lindor came up, a lot of people were saying trade Lindor, get a big name, and I'm glad we didn't do that, because Lindor is a real special player, and I'm glad we held on to him.
Yeah,
but I am scared that
right.
coming 3 years, we're not going to be able to hold on to the guy, but we're going to end up trying to find a way to get the most value out of him.
Well, let's hope we don't trade him for peanuts, but maybe we trade him for peanuts and Cracker Jack. Right?
Dang, dude, that needed to be the last line of the podcast.
I was hoping that would just lead to nothing but a pause.
But yeah, no, so I think we're all in agreement. Indians have a real good shot here of winning the pennant again. Like to see him break that long drought without a championship for that team. And they got a lot of likable guys on this team, and I'd like to see him do it. I don't know if you guys have any final thoughts on this team or, the baseball season in general.
I think it needs to be shorter,
Hey, don't play favorites. I will say, what's the difference between having 162 games and 142 games? I still think if you're thinking it's too long, I still think a lot of people are going to say 142 is
Well,
too
actually,
long.
154 is the number that gets tossed around because that's what it was back in 1960, 61, somewhere in that range. And it doesn't sound like a lot, losing just 8 games.
It doesn't.
But if you think about it, let's say you take. I was reading an article that was talking about that because that seems to be the number that they'd go to. 8 games is that's something where money becomes less. It's still an issue, becomes less of an issue because it's only 8 games. You're only losing 4 home games. The TV deals can be adjusted. There's a lot that needs to go into it. But on top of that, you think about it. Let's just the guy suggested, how about every Monday in April and May are just off games. So then players get a full rest day right there. And then on top of that, you don't have these Monday games in April that are rainy, they're cold, it's school's still in for a lot of people. The games that are less likely to be attended because, they're off. And then the guy even suggested, why don't you have, Monday night baseball, one team, 2 teams play each other and it's one game. It's almost like Monday Night Football. It's a special event, that kind of thing. So it was an interesting thought, but, I thought the same thing. 8 games doesn't sound like a lot, but the guy he's like, I'm a writer for baseball. He goes, the thought of having just 8 less games to write, he goes, I would be doing backflips. He goes, it's just mentally challenging for me. And he goes, I can only imagine what that would do for the players. That's 8 less days they have to travel. They have to, that they don't have to be getting up on a bus or, sleeping in a hotel room, flying through 2-3 time zones, all that kind of stuff. So even cutting it down just a little bit like that could make a world of difference for the player's health, which then, can make the product itself better.
What are your thoughts on just doing something like Friday night baseball and then Saturday, Sunday double headers, and then maybe like a premiere, maybe like a highlight Monday night baseball game, like a spotlight game, game of the week type of thing, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday afternoon there's no baseball.
I don't like the doubleheader thing. I doubleheaders to me need to be as minimalized as possible because I think that is very taxing on, especially if they're doing doubleheaders every weekend for a season. Like that would I think that'd be overkill for a lot of the, players, and especially pitching. Then your team is half specialty pitching because you're going to need them to pitch for doubleheaders.
Well, sure, your strategy is going to change a little bit, and you might have to play. Your lineup might be a little different from time to time. But I don't know. I feel like if you're already at the field and you're playing baseball in the afternoon, I feel like playing another game isn't so bad, especially if you're considering that you've got a 4-day weekend, a 4-day straight of being able to rest.
Well, yeah, I mean, a lot of options out there, and for those of you PMPers who stuck with us for this 90 minutes to listen to us, break down all that is the Major League Baseball season, feel free to reach out to us on Facebook, on Twitter, and let us know your thoughts. Do you not only vote on the poll that'll be coming out about the shorter season, but what are your thoughts on do you want a shorter season? Why would, if so, what would you change, or is it fine the way it is? And give us any of your other thoughts, World Series predictions, all that kind of stuff. And if you think the Diamondbacks and Orioles is a World Series match made in heaven coming up, so. Feel free to go to pseudonerdpod.com for all of our podcasting social media accounts. And that's going to be the show this week. Don't forget, Hoagie's got his stream. I would say Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays at 6:30 Pacific time, but I think you changed it up this week, Kyle, so it may always change.
Wednesday, Thursday, Sunday. You're good.
All right. And always follow us on Twitter to get any updates on that. And join us next week. We will be, if you liked our baseball breakdown, we're going to break down the first round of the draft in our pseudo short for the NFL. So tune in next Friday for that. It's true. From the Great Lakes to the Golden Gate, I am Josh Kaiser. He is Josh Hicks, and he is Kyle Hoagland. And we will see you guys next time.
Have a good Friday.
See ya.